Unit 1, Lesson 4, the domain and range of function. Student will be able to determine the domain and range of function. The set of input that results in an output is called your domain of the function. The set of output is called your range. So domain is equal to your input value, which is also your x value. Range is equal to your output, which is your y value. Looking at this table here, these are different set notations. We have standard notation or graph representation. There are also interval notation or set builder. So all of these you have seen throughout Algebra 1, and you're going to see them again for Algebra 2. One really important notice, these brackets and these less than and greater than and or equal to and the shaded circle, these all means that the number we're talking about is included. So when you have brackets, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and a circle, shaded circle, it means that the number is included. Whereas if you have parentheses or just less than or greater than or an open circle, it means the opposite. The number is not included. So let's see how this works. State the range of the function f of n is equal to 2n plus 1 if its domain is a set of 1, 3, 5. Show the domain and range mapping diagram below. So my domain here is 1, 3, and 5. My range, remember range is my output. When I plug in this value for n, what do I get? So I'm going to take 1, plug it in here. So I get 2 times 1 plus 1. This will give me 3. I'm going to plug in 3. 2 times 3 plus 1. This will give me a 7. If I plug in 5, I will get 11. It says mapping, so all mapping means is that I am going to draw arrows for this. So 1 goes to 3, 3 goes to 7, and then 5 goes to 11. So that's what it means by drawing a mapping. This is my domain, this is my range based on this function right here. F of n equals 2n plus 1. Domain and range from a graph set notation. So given this graph, I want to find the domain. So notice the closed circle. I know these points are included. So my domain is my x value, and I'm going to try to find what's my lowest and my highest x value that this graph exists. So my lowest and my highest, right here is my lowest, and this is my highest. So when I write a set notation for the graph, it's going to be x such that x is greater than or equal to -2 but less than or equal to 4. I put the equal because these are shaded. Now for my range is y. I'm going to look at my y value. With my y value now, I am going to look at the highest and the lowest. So I'm always starting with the lowest, which is right here, and my highest, which is up somewhere up here. What is that point? That's bottom here is -1 and 3, which is how I write it for a graph set notation. For a table, finding the domain and range is actually pretty straightforward. All we're doing is listing the values. So I'm giving some kind of table that has these x value and these y value. One thing is that the numbers to keep in mind is that the numbers do not repeat. So if I had +2 here and this was a +2, I'll only write it one time. So my domain is written as x. This line means such that x is equal to -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. I always start from the smallest number, and let's make a note. We start from the smallest to the largest number. And my range, same exact thing, but my range is y. So its range is equal to y such that y is equal to 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, I start from smallest to largest. And that's something we should practice. Example 2. The function y equal g of x right here is completely defined by the graph below. Answer the following question based on the graph. Determine the minimum and maximum x values of this function. So, minimum x value, maximum x value. I know I'm looking this way, so I'm looking at the width of the graph. So I see it stops here and here. So think of your x values as in the width. What is this point? This is 0, so this is -1, -2, -3, so my minimum is at -3, and then my max is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the x value, minimum and max, is like the width, how fat something is, the width. Minimum and maximum y value is like how tall, the height of something. So I see the minimum, let's just write that here, minimum equals maximum equals. So my minimum is all the way the farthest at the bottom, which is right here, corresponds with this point. And then my maximum, the highest point, is right here. So let's see. This is 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And then my max is at 1, 2, 3, 4. State the domain and range of this function using set builder notation. So I want to use set builder. So what I'm going to do is go back, and set builder means that it is x such that it's between these two numbers. So here's my question here. So my domain D, I'm going to write it x such that my smallest number, and I will be going with the equal at the bottom because the points are shaded, means it's included. X is less than or equal to 6. So this is something as, same way, think of this as my minimum x value and my maximum, and this is my x in the middle. My range now be the same way, range such that my minimum range is -5, and notice I'm going to use shaded circle, means I'm going to use the equal line at the bottom, y less than or equal to, and my max was 4. So again, it has to do with you finding the min y and the maximum for the y. Okay? Now, some function as we know it, it goes on forever and ever and ever. It's stretched out. That when something goes on forever and ever, that's called infinity, which is this sign right here. It's like a twisted 8. Okay? So infinity is a new vocab. It's like a slanted 8. So exercise 3. The function f of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 1 is graphed on the grid below. Determine the domain and range written in integral notation. Here we're looking at integral notation. So if you're not sure, go back to your chart. Integral notation is this right here. So let's start writing our domain. So domain, my x values, I'm going to look, what's my x value? So this is a graph. I see the arrow. This arrow means it goes on forever and ever. So my domain is going to be -infinity to positive infinity, because this is going to stretch, stretch, stretch. I don't know where it's going to stop for the x value. My range now is my y value. Notice the y going up, so I know that it's going to be going to infinity. But what's my end mark? See, my graph stopped at this point right here. Nothing is below this. So this will be my lowest point in the graph, and that's actually -1, -2, -3, -4. But actually, it is a closed circle, so I shouldn't be using parentheses. I actually should be using brackets, because this -4 is included in the graph because of the shaded circle. Now, last example, exercise 4, says the function f of x is equal to 2x plus 1 divided by x minus 4 has outputs given by the following calculator table. So, you should know how to get this on the calculator. Go to home screen, go to graph, then hit tab. Enter this function the same way it is. Same exact way. And then go to menu, table, and split screen. So you should have a screen that looks like this. From the table, what is f of 1? When x is 1, y is -1. Just by looking at the table, I can evaluate that. What is f of 3? F of 3 is -7. Okay, just by looking at the table right here. F of 3 is -7, and f of 1 is -1. B said, why does the calculator give you undefined at x equals 4? So very important. Why is this undefined? So by looking at this fraction, a fraction is undefined when the denominator is equal to 0. So in this case, my denominator is x minus 4. When is this equal to 0? If I was to solve this, I'll add 4 on both sides. These are canceled. X equals to 4. That's why we have undefined, because when I plug in 4, I cannot divide by a 0, and it's going to be undefined. Are there any value except x equals 4 that are not in the domain? Explain. So are there any other value except x equals 4 that are not in the domain? No. The only number not included in this domain is 4. And explain why. So again, we're going to explain because at x equals 4, the denominator is equal to 0. This makes, put an S, the function undefined. So I can plug in any other number, doesn't matter what it is, I will get an answer. The only number that I cannot plug in is x equals 4. And again, this is how I know it's x equals 4. I just make sure the denominator is equal to 0. So any other number will work with fraction except when my denominator is equal to 0. Now look at this video 3, 4, 5 times, however many times you need to review this before you come and take your quiz. Alrighty? See ya!